Welcome to Deep Dive FM, everyone, and happy holidays. You know those stories that just feel woven into the fabric of the season? Well, that's what we're diving into today.
A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I've got a stack of sources here, from the text itself to some literary criticism, and I'm joined by our expert to unpack why this tale of a grumpy old miser still resonates so deeply with all of us.
It is fascinating how A Christmas Carol has become almost a ritual, like carols and gingerbread.
Right.
But beyond that familiar plot, there's so much to uncover about its cultural impact, Dickens' craft, and even some surprising connections to the anxieties of his time.
Okay, so let's start with Ebenezer Scrooge himself. Dickens doesn't hold back in making him utterly unlikable.
Oh, no.
Hard and sharp as flint, solitary as an oyster. Right?
Yeah.
It's almost comical how much he despises Christmas cheer.
And that's deliberate. You have to think about Victorian England.
Good.
Rapid industrialization, growing wealth disparity, and a real fear of losing traditional values. Scrooge becomes almost a caricature of those anxieties.
Right.
Someone so fixated on profit that he's lost his humanity.
So he's not just a mean old man. He's like a symbol of what Dickens saw going wrong in society.
Exactly. And it's through Scrooge's exaggerated flaws that Dickens can really highlight the need for things like compassion and generosity, especially during a season meant to celebrate them.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Jacob Marley's ghost.
Yeah, that's one image that stays with you. Not just the ghost itself, but those chains.
Oh, yeah.
Representing the burden of his past deeds.
This is where Dickens gets really clever. He's tapping into a deep-seated human fear. What if our choices come back to haunt us? Marley's not there just to scare Scrooge. She's there to make him receptive to change.
Right.
Which is where the three spirits come in.
It's like he's laying the groundwork, making Scrooge realize that even after death, there are consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the Ghost of Christmas Past first. This one takes Scrooge back to his childhood, and honestly, some of those scenes are pretty heartbreaking.
They are. Dickens masterfully uses the past to show us how Scrooge became who he is. We see the lonely schoolboy, the loving sister Fan, the glimpses of joy at Fezziwig's party. It's not just exposition, it's making us understand why Scrooge built those walls around himself.
There's this one detail that struck me. Young Scrooge at the party, wanting to give something to the carol singer, but thinking, it's too late now.
Yes.
It's like even then, a part of him knew better.
And that's what makes the story so hopeful. Dickens is suggesting that even someone as seemingly hardened as Scrooge still has that spark of good within him, and the Ghost of Christmas Past is there to rekindle it,
Right.
to bring it back to life.
All right, so on to the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, my favorite.
This spirit brings Scrooge face to face with the Cratchit family Christmas. It's such a stark contrast. Their meager meal, Tiny Tim's illness, yet this overwhelming sense of gratitude.
This is in classic Dickens using a specific family to represent a much larger social problem. The Cratchits embodied the struggles of the working class, forced to celebrate amidst poverty yet finding joy in the little things.
What's fascinating is how Bob Cratchit still defends Scrooge even when his own wife calls Scrooge out for his stinginess. That seems almost too good to be true, doesn't it?
It does, but it also highlights Dickens' belief in the inherent goodness of people, even those who are struggling. It's like Bob, despite his hardships, still sees the potential for good in everyone, even Scrooge.
It sets up this idea that maybe redemption is possible, even for someone who seems as far gone as Scrooge.
Exactly. And that's the brilliance of A Christmas Carol, right? Dickens doesn't offer us any easy answers, but he does offer hope. And speaking of hope, perhaps we should move on to the most mysterious of the spirits, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
This one's all about atmosphere, right? No talking, just these shadowy visions of what could happen if Scrooge doesn't change.
Dickens ramps up the tension here. He doesn't show us a fixed future, but rather the path that Scrooge is heading down, and that makes it all the more impactful. It's a warning, not a prophecy.
And it clearly shakes Scrooge to his core. I mean, the scene where he sees his own neglected grave.
Oh, yes.
It's a pretty stark image.
It highlights the real question that Dickens wants us to grapple with. What mark do we want to leave on the world? Not just in terms of wealth or possessions, but in how we treat others.
This all seems like a lot more than just a simple Christmas story.
It is.
It's making me think about my own choices, my own priorities.
And that's the power of A Christmas Carol. It transcends the boundaries of time and culture because it speaks to something universal. The longing for connection, the possibility of redemption, the importance of choosing kindness. And speaking of kindness, if you're looking to spread a little Christmas cheer this year, why not check out the Christmas Carol store? You just might find the perfect gift for someone special while supporting a good cause.
That's a great reminder. But before you rush off to do your holiday shopping, let's dive a little deeper into this idea of Scrooge's transformation and what it really means.
Welcome back to Deep Dive FM. Before we get to the heartwarming transformation of Scrooge, I think it's important to consider the social context in which Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol.
You're right, it's easy to forget that this seemingly simple story was actually pretty radical for its time.
Absolutely. Victorian England was a time of immense social change and upheaval. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing,
Right.
creating vast wealth for some, but also exacerbating poverty and inequality. And Dickens, with his keen eye for social observation, was deeply troubled by these disparities.
And that's reflected in the story, isn't it? I mean, the contrast between Scrooge's opulent home and the Cratchit's meager dwelling is pretty stark.
Precisely. Dickens uses the story to hold a mirror up to society, forcing readers to confront the harsh realities of poverty and the plight of the working class.
It's not just about showing us the problem, though, is it? There's also this message of hope, this idea that things can change.
Exactly, and that's where Scrooge's transformation comes in. His dramatic change of heart from miser to philanthropist represents the potential for individual and societal redemption.
It's almost like a fairy tale ending, but it works because Dickens has laid the groundwork so carefully. We've seen Scrooge's past, his present, and the potential consequences of his actions.
By showing us those different layers, Dickens makes Scrooge's transformation believable. It's not just a sudden change of heart, but a gradual awakening of his humanity.
There's that scene, I love it, where Scrooge sends the giant turkey to the Cratchits anonymously.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a small gesture, but it speaks volumes about his newfound generosity.
And it's not just about the material gift, is it? It's about Scrooge finally recognizing the needs of others and acting on that recognition.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Even after his transformation, Scrooge still has to face the consequences of his past actions.
Of course, redemption doesn't erase the past. It's about acknowledging past mistakes and making amends for them.
Right.
And that's exactly what Scrooge does. He reaches out to those he's wronged. He becomes a benefactor to those in need, and he embraces the true spirit of Christmas.
And in doing so, he doesn't just change his own life, but he has a ripple effect on those around him. Bob Cratchit gets a raise, Tiny Tim is saved, and Scrooge himself finds a joy he never thought possible.
A Christmas Carol ultimately offers us a vision of a more just and compassionate society where people are valued not for their wealth, but for their humanity.
It's a message that continues to resonate today, especially during the holiday season.
Absolutely. It reminds us that even in the midst of commercialism and materialism, the true spirit of Christmas lies in generosity, kindness, and a sense of community.
Speaking of generosity and finding the perfect gifts, might I suggest a visit to the Christmas Carol store? There you can find unique and thoughtful presents while supporting a worthy cause.
That's a wonderful idea. But before you rush off to do your holiday shopping, we have one more fascinating aspect of A Christmas Carol to explore.
I'm intrigued. What haven't we covered yet?
We've talked about Scrooge's transformation, but I think it's important to consider what might have happened if he hadn't been visited by the spirits.
Ooh, that's a good question. Would he have continued down that miserly path, or was there a glimmer of hope within him all along?
That's what we'll delve into in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to Deep Dive FM, where we're exploring the enduring power of A Christmas Carol. We've seen Scrooge's journey from miser to philanthropist, but as our expert just pointed out, there's this lingering question.
Yeah.
What if the spirits hadn't intervened at all?
It's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? Would Scrooge have remained trapped in his self-imposed isolation, or was there a chance, however small, that he might have found his way to redemption on his own?
It's almost like Dickens is inviting us to consider the role of free will versus fate. Did Scrooge have any agency in his own transformation, or was it all orchestrated by these supernatural forces?
I think Dickens is suggesting that it's a bit of both. The spirits certainly act as catalysts, forcing Scrooge to confront his past, his present, and his potential future. But ultimately, it's Scrooge who makes the choice to change.
There's that scene where he wakes up on Christmas morning, practically giddy with joy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a genuine awakening, a recognition of the beauty and the possibility that he's been blind to for so long.
That's the key, isn't it? It's not just about Scrooge becoming good out of fear of punishment. It's about him rediscovering the joy of human connection, the simple pleasures of giving and receiving kindness.
It makes you wonder if maybe we all have that potential within us. a capacity for change that might just need a little nudge in the right direction.
And perhaps that's one of the reasons why A Christmas Carol continues to resonate so strongly even after all these years. It offers us a hopeful vision of human nature, suggesting that even the most hardened heart can be softened by compassion and empathy.
It's a reminder that we're not just defined by our past mistakes, but by our capacity to learn and grow.
And that growth can be sparked by seemingly small things, a kind gesture, a moment of shared laughter, a recognition of our shared humanity.
So what's the ultimate message Dickens is leaving us with? Is it simply, be good for goodness sake?
Yeah. I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. A Christmas Carol challenges us to look beyond the superficial trappings of the holiday season and embrace the deeper values it represents: generosity, compassion, and a sense of community.
It's a call to action, a reminder that we have the power to make the world a better place, not just during the holidays, but all year round.
And that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope for redemption, both for ourselves and for society as a whole.
A Christmas Carol truly is a gift that keeps on giving, a timeless tale that inspires us to be better, to do better, and to embrace the true spirit of giving. And if you're still looking for that perfect gift to embody that spirit, be sure to check out our Christmas Carol store.
You'll find a treasure trove of unique and meaningful gifts there. But most importantly, remember the message of A Christmas Carol as you celebrate this holiday season. Choose kindness, embrace generosity, and spread a little Christmas cheer wherever you go.
Thank you for joining us for this special deep dive into A Christmas Carol. We wish you and your loved ones a joyous holiday season filled with warmth, laughter, and the true spirit of giving.